Here is Family Caregivers Month. President Clinton signed a presidential proclamation back in 1997. Anyone who is caring for a loved one knows it can take a toll. And according to AARP, 30% of caregivers die before their loved ones do. Here this morning is David Nassaney. He is a caregiver for his wife. He's written a book called It's My Life Too. Welcome back, David.
Thank you for having me. I'm just so excited to be here.
Well, it's good to have you. This is really an issue for people who are caring for somebody who needs special care.
Absolutely.
And so I remember when you were here before, you talk about the pressure that it puts on the person who is the caregiver. And you don't want to seem selfish, but sometimes you have to be.
That's right. Sometimes selfish is a dirty word, but not if you're a caregiver. Caregivers need to be selfish in order to survive. I mean, if I wasn't selfish, I wouldn't be here today talking to you.
And so what is the pressure, though, of caring for somebody who can't care for themselves?
Well, you wear so many hats, especially if your loved one like mine is your wife. Sometimes it's a father, sometimes it's a special needs child, sometimes it's an uncle, a grandparent. But when it's your wife, you never quite know when to be the husband and when to be the caregiver because, they mix up the roles, and sometimes I get in trouble.
And so how did you learn this, though? Just because you were doing it? Or, were there some triggers that you said, look, I've got to take some time for myself or I'm not going to be any good for you?
Well, it all started with experience. 23 years ago, she had this headache of her life. We didn't think much about it. It's only a headache. And then that headache turned into a stroke. Stroke turned into a losing your speech, and then paralysis on one side. And we went through the grief process. Anytime you suffer loss, you suffer grief, and it wasn't fun. 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe even 3 years. We almost broke up. I wrote her a letter and I said, Charlene, why are you so mean to me? It's so hard being your husband, taking care of you 24/7. I just don't think I can be with you anymore. And I read that letter over and over again, and I said, I can't give this to my soulmate, to my wife. So I just went on in my pain and my sorrow. But then I went to a caregiver support group, learned that I had to take care of me before I could take care of her.
Okay. So the biggest mistake that caregivers make is what?
The number one mistake caregivers make is they don't know how to put their needs first. Now, every time we go on an airline, they tell us oxygen mask will drop. Put your mask on first before you help your loved one with their mask. Hello, what an amazing metaphor for all of life. Take care of me first.
Yeah.
Second biggest mistake caregivers make is they don't know how to ask for help. And everyone has one of these. It's called a cell phone. You turn it on, you punch in your number. Hello, Mom, I need help. Grandma's driving me crazy. Yeah. Call your brother, call your sister, call your wife's husband, call anybody, but get over that silly notion. If you can't do it all by yourself, you're a failure as a caregiver. That attitude will kill you.
Well, but I can see where people would have that attitude of, it's back to the selfish thing. It's like, I'm able to care for somebody, and how selfish must I be if I get angry about that?
Well, you have to kind of burn out before you realize there's a problem, before you realize you can fix it, right? The alcoholic needs to know he's an alcoholic before he begins that long journey. And so I burned out. I didn't know what to do, and I said, I can't continue on like this. So the caregiver support group taught me things like, take care of you first. So I just started taking care of me so I could take care of her. Yeah. And she slowly started coming around, and our love was rekindled. And next thing you know, I'm hosting Dave, the Caregiver radio show, syndicated in all 50 states, 135 countries. I'm speaking all across the country on stages like Carnegie Hall and Harvard and West Point. I'm sharing the stage with names like Suzanne Summers and Martha Stewart, Ice-T. I wrote my fourth book now. I'm a best-selling author. And this is my 27th TV appearance all across the country, from Hawaii to Washington, D.C. So I'm spreading the word.
Well, and it's a word that needs to be spread. Thanks so much for being with us again.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.